It wasn't until 1994 that Indigenous veterans were allowed to lay a wreath at the War Memorial in Ottawa or march as a group in Remembrance Day ceremonies.
And I think that type of history, that type of knowledge needs to be told.
The Ministry of Veteran Affairs estimates more than 12,000 Indigenous peoples have served in the Canadian Armed Forces.
Indigenous veterans have been at the heart of our armed forces community.
Métis naval veteran Brian Black says many of the Indigenous soldiers were highly decorated and brought unique skills to the force.
They were very, very skilled hunters. They were skilled in camouflage, in marksmanship, in concealment, and they were fearless.
Métis service members translated code messages into the Cree language so they couldn't be intercepted. But NDP MPP Sol Mamakwa says many faced an uphill battle just to serve.
Because they were not citizens of Canada, and we were unable to vote. But they volunteered despite the challenges they faced. And of course, you deal with racism within that setting as well.
And upon returning home, Indigenous veterans wouldn't get the same land entitlements or help with medical costs that non-Indigenous veterans were promised.
They were served with distinction and had all these medals, and all their comrades held them with high regard, but then when they got home, they were just sort of pushed aside in society.
They just weren't treated equally. They weren't seen as Canadian, which is terrible.
Brianna Pegamagabo is the great-granddaughter of a highly decorated Indigenous sniper in the First World War, Francis Pegamagabo. She's learning more about him through an ancestry test.
In his activism, he went to a lot of government offices and really spoke out. He wasn't agreeing with the treatment that he was receiving.
She says seeing her great-grandfather and thousands of other Indigenous veterans be honored today makes her proud.
It's like a celebration of my heritage, knowing that's what my great-grandfather contributed to this country.
But veterans like Black want to see the government apologize to Indigenous veterans who served in the Korean War for their mistreatment.
2 years ago, the Canadian government offered a official policy from the Prime Minister to World War II Métis veterans because of their mistreatment when they returned home, which again was great, and it was well received by the living World War II veterans that were still alive. But there's also, they need to do that with our Korean veterans.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau writing today, the Government of Canada is working to ensure that all Indigenous service members and veterans receive the recognition and support they deserve.